Over the past week, we have just concluded the Chopin International Piano Competition here in Singapore. Listening to many young pianists across different levels is always a very revealing experience. It allows us to observe not only performance, but the way students are being trained, guided, and prepared over time. One question that naturally arises from such an event is this: how do we truly train gifted children in music? Not simply to play well, but to develop the depth, discipline, and artistic maturity required for long-term growth. In this video, I would like to share some reflections on this topic, drawing from both my teaching experience and what we observe at international levels. When we speak about piano lessons for gifted children, the question is often misunderstood. It is not simply whether a child has talent. The more important question is whether that talent is being shaped with sufficient seriousness, technical structure, and artistic understanding to endure over time. Giftedness at the piano can appear in many forms. A child may memorize quickly, may hear harmonies instinctively. They may demonstrate musical imagination far beyond their age. These are promising signs, but they're not a substitute for disciplined training. In fact, gifted children often require more exacting instruction. Without strong guidance, their natural facility can sometimes conceal underlying weaknesses in reading and technique, in habitual practices, and musical understanding. A gifted child does not simply need lessons that keep them engaged. They require a structured path, one that develops control, endurance, interpretation, and ultimately readiness for performance. If we look at serious training environments around the world, there is often a very clear attitude towards talent. Talent is treated as raw material. It is not flattered, it is developed. This means that lessons must move beyond basic note learning or weekly repertoire completion. A serious program for an able young pianist must build discipline through scales, arpeggios, double notes, chord balance, voicing, and tonal control. At the same time, it must cultivate stylistic awareness across a wide range of repertoire, from Bach to Mozart to Chopin and Prokofiev. Students must encounter different sound worlds, gestures, and forms of musical thinking. This is where many students begin to plateau. They are praised for being advanced, yet they are not trained to conservatoire-level expectations. They may attempt difficult repertoire prematurely without sufficient work on structure, song production, or score study. The result is playing that appears impressive on the surface, but becomes increasingly unstable as the repertoire becomes more demanding. Gifted children also require a different teaching approach. They are not always easy to teach. Quick learners in particular can become careless, rely too much on instinct or playing by ear. Teaching must therefore be exact, but not overly critical. It must be ambitious, but not reckless. The balance is one of the defining characteristics of high-level training. One of the most important issues we observe is this: fast progress can conceal technical gaps. Many gifted children appear advanced because they learn repertoire quickly. But speed of learning is not the same as the depth of training. A serious teacher must identify technical issues early. Technical work must be assigned deliberately to build a foundation that can support advanced repertoire and public performance. Another important area is musical understanding. Some gifted children play expressively from the outset, yet they lack the ability to articulate what they are doing. They may not understand harmony, phrase structure, modulation, cadence, or form. At higher levels, this becomes a serious limitation. Students preparing for diploma examinations, competitions, and recitals must develop a strong understanding of the music. Music theory and musicianship cannot be treated as secondary. They sharpen interpretation, strengthen memory, improve reading, and provide control rather than guesswork. Repertoire selection is also a crucial part of the training. A teacher can work with gifted children and does not just simply assign impressive pieces. Each work must be worked with specific musical objectives. A piece must teach contrapuntal clarity, another tone layering, another rhythmic control, and another a long-form structural thinking. This approach may seem less glamorous, but it is more effective in the long term. Acceleration can be appropriate for truly exceptional students, but it must always be supported by careful technical planning and growing interpretative maturity. Otherwise, repertoire becomes a display rather than a vehicle for artistic development. For parents, it is not necessary to be musicians to recognize the importance of serious training. What matters is the environment. Is there structure? Are there meaningful standards? Is there long-term guidance? Gifted children benefit from teachers who are artistically accomplished, technically informed, and experienced in developing students beyond the early stages, into diplomas, competitions, and performance. Equally important is stability. Some children thrive in demanding environments, others require a more gradual transition. Progress depends not only on talent, but also on temperament, prior training, and the level of commitment at home. Sustained development requires consistency. It cannot rely on weekly lessons alone. Examinations and competitions can play an important role. They provide structure, they prevent complacency, they help to clarify progress, and they are not ends in themselves. Students must develop touch, tone, stylistic understanding, memory, and performance stability under pressure. These are the qualities that sustain long-term musicianship. In practice, we observe very different trajectories. Some children receive structured and disciplined training and develop into exceptional musicians. Others begin with strong potential, but when training is less consistent or priorities shift, that potential gradually diminishes over time. As repertoire becomes more demanding, the level of discipline and perseverance required increases significantly. At that stage, natural ability alone is no longer sufficient. Long-term development requires integration. Technique, theory, stylistic awareness, and musical understanding must be developed together. The student must gradually learn to make independent musical decisions, not simply rely on imitation. This is where true artistic growth begins. The process is not without challenge. Students must learn to navigate setbacks. They must revisit repertoire. They must work consistently towards higher standards. This is where real development takes place. Giftedness is not a guarantee. It is potential that must be shaped. Some students arise because they develop technique depth and resistance. Others plateau because early ease was never transformed into structure capability. Giftedness is not a final condition. It is potential under pressure. Some students develop because that potential is guided with discipline, structure, and care. Others plateau because early ease is never transformed into real capabilities. For parents and teachers, the task is not simply to recognize talent, but to nurture it with clarity, patience, and meaningful standards. A gifted young pianist should leave each lesson not only encouraged, but more aware, with sharper listening, clearer thinking, stronger technique, and a deeper sense of responsibility. That is how talent becomes musicianship, and how potential over time moves towards mastery.